friends, welcome. Glad you're here tonight. I've got a little bit of an introduction to give, and then I'll get the main cast up here. They're the ones that you really came to see, but I thought this would be fun to give you a little bit of an introduction tonight. So I'm Diana Malcolm with discernPSU, and my colleague Alicia Anderson and I are really thrilled that you're able to come and be here for our Why I Do What I Do event this semester. You guys know Sam and Laurie, who are the folks that direct World in Conversation Center for Public Diplomacy at Penn State, the largest university-based cross-cultural dialogue program in the U.S. You know that they teach, and that Sam, you actually teach the largest race relations course in the U.S., and you know that Laurie, as the executive director of World in Conversation, inspires the center's global dialogues, which have attracted the interest of partners such as UNDP and NATO and local and regional organizations in Pakistan, Iraq, Kuwait, Egypt, and lots of others. But what you may not know, that if you would have introduced them when they were your age, it would have sounded a little bit like this. As a commuter student at Rutgers University studying English, Laurie spent most of her time working at a local law firm and running to classes in between. By the end of her third semester, she had dropped out of college indefinitely. She felt that she had been going to college so that she could get a job, and since she actually had a job, why would she need to go to college? Laurie was involved in no extracurriculars as a college student. College was truly secondary to her life. The main question she was asking herself at that time was, will I ever fall in love? Sam was commuting to the University of Toledo and majoring in accounting. As a full-time student for the first 2 years, he was only halfway through his freshman year in terms of credits, because after a few weeks he just stopped going to most classes. Sam's transcript was full of W grades? Music being important to him, he was playing quite actively in a band during those 2 years, mostly top 40 and classic rock songs. Thinking and growing intellectually at that point was not at all important to him, and he didn't know how to even begin to approach life's perennial questions. To be honest, he would say he was just sort of existing. discernPSU's fellow Rachel All is here tonight to interview Sam and Laurie. So will you join me in welcoming them all to the stage?
Yeah, let's sit. Should we sit? You know what? Can we not sit? Let's stand. I can't. I don't think when I sit. No, it's okay. Yeah, please do. Yep, let's do that.
Okay. So I guess I'll just start off with the most obvious question, why we're here tonight. This is the Why I Do What I Do event. So my first question for you is, how did you come to do the work that you do?
And I'm going to pass the mic to you and let you start.
I don't know is the answer, and I'm actually here because I hope I'm going to find out the answer. I'm not kidding. It's a question that I ask myself all the time. The best answer that I could give to start out, because that's the question that I should have gotten last, because then I might know. I just backed into this work, as a friend of mine would say about his work. I literally just backed into it. So can say the question one more time so I can say. Yeah, that's it. I was trying to find my life. I was trying to find my calling, and while I was trying to find my calling, I was just doing things to take up my time. One of them was helping Sam with his TAs, because I had studied group work in social work. And so as I was just helping, like, what those of us who work on facilitating, we talk about facilitating. I was just doing that, and then I just dropped into some rabbit hole, I guess, and never came back. And there's a lot more to say about that, but other than that, I didn't choose any of it.
I can agree with that. At one point, you were helping Mayor Black with projects as well. So
Oh yes, my photographer friend.
and for me, my answer to that question is the same thing. I backed into it, really. In fact, I started teaching about race here at Penn State because they needed someone to teach the Social 19 class, and nobody wanted to do it, and I didn't really want to do it. And they said, well, if you don't take that class, we probably don't have another class for you to teach. And that was, I didn't have a job at that point, and Laurie insisted I pay half the rent. So we were both living on Pew Street in a basement apartment. And so I started teaching that, and then really kind of like many things, we just really backed into it. It's an accident. And then I stayed here, and staying here was a series of accidents. I could spend 3 hours about all the accidents, which is why when I hear young people today talk about all the plans that they have about where they want to go and what they want to do, I think no plan of mine ever worked out in any way, shape, or form. But my whole life is a series of accidents. So, yeah.
My next question, how did you know that this was your calling?
Ooh. I would say, all right, you said else did. Okay. I'll respond to this one first. How did I know it was my calling? I don't actually know that it's my calling. I don't know what that means. I don't know what a calling is. Honestly, it's very, it's sometimes disturbing to me that I don't feel like I have a calling. And so people might say teaching is, but I so accidentally got involved in teaching. It was true again. Yeah. So I don't know. And I didn't.
So I can answer this question, and I think you might have another answer.
Okay. Let me see what you say.
So in this way that we were just saying how we both kind of fell into things, I think it's a little different for you because you studied sociology, I think at all levels, right? Bachelor's, master's.
I did.
Yeah. So
and I'm going to get a
It doesn't
chair,
seem.
by the way.
It doesn't seem so strange that you would be a sociology professor,
No.
having studied sociology. And really, what else would you do with a sociology degree?
Right.
So there is kind of that thread. But anyway, there is still a part that's sort of.
There might be some sociology majors here, though, so don't depress them too much. Yeah. Okay.
But as somebody who didn't study sociology and whatever, feeling that I really did fall into the life that is all around me, the thing that makes me feel that there's some calling in this is that I have tried so many times to get out of this work. And literally, I have quit multiple times.
Mm-hmm.
Sam was in Japan once and called me just, to check in. And I told him that I quit and I was done. And I really meant it. And he was like,
We were getting off the phone call, and she said, "Hey, by the way, I quit." I said, "You quit what?" "I quit working with you."
But in the most, actually, I don't know that I could describe it yet in this moment. Maybe I could get to it. But it's so moving to me, the way in which I feel like life has held me by the throat, almost up against the wall, and just like, you're not going anywhere. So there was a point in my life about 8 or 9 years ago when my life literally fell apart, when I thought I was doing what I was meant to do, and I was writing a book at that time. I was like, finally, here I am doing what I'm supposed to do, and the whole thing fell apart. And what happened, I was back at World in Conversation, which wasn't World in Conversation at the time, just sitting there every day trying to survive. And then in that process, there I was back, and all of a sudden things started to grow, and I started to have different ideas. And anyway, so this has happened repeatedly, and I, at some point in these past couple years, felt, I don't know what it means, but I know that something of what I'm in is what I'm called to do or coerced to do by some greater destiny or something. But it really does. I know I have not chosen any of this, and yet, ellipsis. And
I
you?
still don't have a calling. No.
Okay.
I thought I might have one in these 3 or 4 minutes here, but I really still don't.
But can I say something about
Yeah.
calling
Uh-huh.
for you?
Uh-huh.
I observe something with when I so the more I work with Sam, the harder it is to work with Sam because I actually start to be a part of what I mean. So over the years, I became more a part of what he was doing. So if you don't know us very well, you might actually know about the two of us, and therefore, like things that you learn about Sam, you might think, oh, that's Laurie and Sam, when really Laurie is so different than Sam and thinks so different and doesn't and like the things that you do in Social 119, like I shiver when I'm at home. I would never want to be a part of a
Like
lot
the
of it.
needy penis lecture?
No, not that
That
one.
you wrote
That one I'm
entitled?
okay. That one I'm okay with.
Okay, all right. All right.
Okay, there's some
Needy
contradictions.
penises are fine. All right. All that other stuff, though. Okay, go ahead.
But all I know is like when I put the pieces together and I think of like what things you should do in life or in a classroom, I never come up with the things that you come up with, nor do most people, around us. And yet there's something that happens with you in the classroom over the years with students it's beyond what you just could think about. It's just beyond a lecture. And so there's something in there for me that as I observe it, I realize that there's something I can't touch in it and I shouldn't touch in it. And I really shouldn't have an opinion about because it's beyond my opinion.
Okay, so let me respond to that just in a little bit. If you've ever been part of one of my classes, you would think, okay, maybe I was called to teach, right, to go with the question. But once again, I don't know that it's hard to be called towards something when you accidentally do it. Like, we're here in State College, but we're here by accident. We didn't choose to be here. We came here with every intention to leave, and we stayed here. And so every day we feel like, are we supposed to be here? Because it's not this kind of thing. But I did, when I was starting my second year of my master's program, this community college called my boss and said, hey, we need someone to teach this class on cybernetics and human ecology. Do you have anyone? And he gave them my name.
What is it?
Cybernetics and human ecology. So I was 23 at the time. I just turned 24. And they were really desperate. And so I sat down with this person and I said, well, tell me what it's about. He said, well, cybernetics and human ecology. He didn't know what it was about. I said, what's cybernetics? He said, I don't know. And so I said, well, give me a little bit of time to think about it. He said, well, you got 15 minutes because the students are meeting down the hall and it's ready to go. So I said, okay, I guess I'll do it. So I walked in the classroom, and the first thing I did when I walked in, there were about 60 people sitting there staring at me. I walked in. It was filled. I was 5 minutes late getting in because I had to go somewhere to look up what cybernetics was, right? And I didn't have time. I didn't ever find it. And I walked in, and I just said, hey, does anyone know what cybernetics is? And nobody said yes. And I said, well, neither do I. But we'll figure it out by the end of the semester, which we never really did. But if there's anything that could be a calling, it's that what I learned about teaching in that moment is all I had to do was ask the questions publicly to the class. And if I ask the questions, then together we'll come up with the answers. At least I'll come up with the answers. And so I learned early on that it didn't you didn't have to have the answers. You just had to be willing to ask the questions and be willing to say, I don't have the answers, but I'll figure it out. And then I really learned about teaching because what I learned was it just motivated me to grow. And I think that maybe my calling, if I have any calling, is to keep learning. So I'm always doing new classes, new lectures, new ideas, because I'm always needing to learn. I'm wanting to learn new things, teach myself new things. So, okay, that's a really long answer. We'll be here all night if we keep going with that. What would you find surprising about it?
Can I answer for you?
Yeah. Please. Oh, yeah. Surprise me.
I'm just going to say the first thing that comes to mind. Okay. It might not be the biggest surprise, but that Sam is really shy, and whenever he's in a group that's not. Actually, whenever he's in a small group, that's why this is so awkward, I think, right now. It's really hard for him to be in small groups. And whenever we're with friends, Michael Black, you may or may not agree with this.
Mayor Black.
Oh, sorry, potential Mayor Black. Sam is definitely not the loudest. He's like the wallflower in a way. It's a weird term, but he's always just like that, sitting in the background, not telling stories, not leading the conversation, very rarely speaking and being forward.
Yeah. That's good. Okay.
I don't know if
That's
that's. I mean, that's.
No, that's
It's actually surprising to me because I met Sam as a teacher, so I met the bigger personality, blah blah blah, and
yeah, but it was a small class, 30 people. But
in the beginning of your career.
I think what folks would find surprising about Laurie, maybe not surprising, but you don't necessarily have a chance. People don't have a chance to meet her often at the level that I do, and is that I'm going to say this. This is going to sound. All I can do is say it. So I've had an opportunity to spend a lot of time around really, really bright people, and really people with amazing minds and just good, excellent thinkers. And it may be, I will grant to the universe that it may be just that I have an opportunity to spend more time with Laurie, but I've said for many, many years that Laurie's the smartest, the sharpest, has the sharpest mind of anyone I've ever met. The way she can hold concepts and ideas together and kind of hold them and come back, and it's just, oh my God, like, how do you do that? How? And students, I think young people, I always think, yeah, most people aren't going to have an opportunity to see it because you also don't put yourself out there in that way. But yeah, so.
Can I ask? Can we have in the middle of these questions? Can we have other questions just to Is that okay?
Does anybody
Is that
have
okay,
a question?
Diana?
So you dodged the bullet of the original question of why you do what you do.
Yeah.
By saying why you started doing what you're doing, but why do you continue to do what you do?
Okay, I can respond. Look, when I was ending my undergrad work and I started my grad work, I started reading about Latin America. I just picked up a book one day, and I started reading about U.S. foreign policy, and I started reading things that I just didn't know. I'm this working class kid from Toledo, right? So I didn't know, whatever. I wasn't political. I didn't know, and I started reading about things the U.S. was doing around the world, and I was blown away by the kinds of things I was reading, and I was just in some ways felt betrayed. I felt immensely betrayed and outraged, and I think that betrayal and that sense of outrage, it just has carried me for many, many, many years. It continues to. That's why I'm always looking for things that I don't know, and I think that other people don't know. It just really, it motivates me, a certain sense of justice. And being working class, you just, I don't know, it's annoying, So that's one of the reasons I do what I do. Another reason is because I love just difference. I love meeting people, and I love differences. And so I get to be in this world where I meet people from all over the globe and people with very different ideas and perspectives, and it really, it's really cool. I don't have to travel, and I get to travel every day. How about that?
Did he answer?
All right.
Do I have to answer too?
No, you don't. Truth has one for
wait.
you.
I'll come back. We'll come back. Prematurely.
Yeah, I want to know too. Why do you do what you do?
Okay. The reasons have changed over the year. I mean, okay, there's just the thing where I'm just being held in it. So there's just that. But in a day-to-day basis, on a day-to-day basis, why do I show up? That evolves. One thing is just loyalty to the people around me, for sure. There's no way to just get rid of that part of me, and it's a part of me that loyalty doesn't sound, and it isn't like sexy and inspiring and transformative, but I think every day of the people that I'm going to come and see every day and who they are and what they're doing and how they're holding the kinds of things that we are. So there's definitely that.
Laurie is immensely loyal. Oh my God.
But then there's just been my own unfolding and learning. And so I too, growing up in the working class with the mentality of, the U.S. is the best country, and not that working class is associated with that perspective, but that was my perspective, and everything that goes along with that. So life became, once I became an adult, because I carried that into adulthood. Once I became an adult and things started to hit me and I started to change that, my life has been this series of uncovering lies and there's been just a lot of disappointment. And so I think in the process I've transformed. I'm not the person that I was before. Like, I know why. I don't know who is who in this room, but like, for people who don't understand why people voted for Donald Trump, I know exactly why people voted for Donald Trump. Like, I know that mindset. I know how to look through those eyes, and I know another side of like not voting for someone like Donald Trump, whatever. But I care so much about what I've come to know and what I've come to learn, and I also understand what it means to think something different and still be a decent person. That I can't let go of that. It's so simple to me that we can think differently and yet be standing in ground that could be even immoral or hateful to people that I either don't see or maybe even do see, but don't truly see. So there's something about that every day when I have the opportunity to have conversations and build relationships and watch other people build relationships and work together across borders. That's just miraculous. And so there is, as long as I see that, I have to keep getting up for it, and keep protecting it and keep helping it to happen, even though there are limits, you know what I mean? There's still terrible things that happen all around us, but it feels important to see the possibilities between people and believe in them and think that maybe there's more to this life than at least what we see projected to us. Was that an answer?
Is that sufficient, Truth? Was that good
He didn't
enough?
ask his question yet.
All right.
Are you ready? Do you want to ask it?
Here we go.
No, I don't need the microphone.
No, you do. It's got to go into the live
All right.
stream.
So my question is, actually, I don't know if Laurie has any history of this, but in what ways has the ingestion of psychedelic teachers influenced your work or your outlook on life?
Oh my gosh. Psychedelic teachers. Psychedelic teachers. It has an influence. Well, I don't know. Laurie has epilepsy. And so when I've described what it's like to be on psilocybin, on mushrooms to Laurie has always said, I think I know what that's all about, because she has seizures, or recently.
I just know what altered states are.
Altered states are, right. So there's a way in which I think Laurie Laurie doesn't have an experience with psychedelics, but she has an experience with altered states. For me, psychedelics was the thing that opened me to to God, to the creation, to creation itself. Yeah, like when I saw something, it changed me just like that in like just hours. With a buddy of mine in Mexico, in a little cabin in the mountains, and it was it. That was it. Didn't have to keep going back. Didn't really matter. It just was. Suddenly, 6 hours later, life was different. Everything had changed, and so from this little plant that grew out of the ground, which I don't, yeah, I think many times people misuse and don't understand the power of it, and I think we have to be really careful. But for me, that was it. Yeah. All right, next question.
How have you helped each other grow in your understanding of who you are and what you are doing in the world?
Oh my God. Okay. Can I tell a story here?
You understand? I don't know. Like, it's so nice to be with all of you. Some of the faces I don't know, lots of them I do. It's so, I have to say this. It just feels really like an honor to be able to be asked these questions, which feel like a test, but I know it's not. But because it's so good I am a person who learns by talking, and I do a lot of asking other people to talk. So it's very cool to have the opportunity to talk, but it feels so self-serving to be sitting here and have you all listening to us. So I know, but it's it's weird to me. I really appreciate it, and so it's an honor. I just have to say that.
So one of the ways in which I think we've helped each other grow in some ways more than any other is by encouraging one another to take an inner journey and to stay on an inner journey, and that meaning to just really seek towards something greater.
Wait, can I interrupt that?
Yep.
I think there's a bigger framework to that.
Yeah.
I think that, and I'm just going to come closer to you.
Right.
I think that we would probably say that our relationship opened us to the Great Spirit. I think for both of us, somehow the coming together is synonymous with a doorway opening up to the spiritual world. We both came together as Sam used to wear this button when I first met him that said, Gracias a Dios soy un ateo. Thank God I'm an atheist. And so we both very much came together at the point in our lives of great rationality after having grown up in different kinds of Christian traditions, but not really moving us in any deep way. But I think truly the relationship, and I think this experience of love and like the deep mystery of love just kicked open something in us that just, I think, there's the falling in love part, and like a lot of us, I think, know that or get to know that, but it was bigger than, I don't know, or maybe it was just purely love in the way that love presents itself in life, and I really think it's just changed everything about how we saw the world and then each other, maybe.
And we wanted to hang on to it. So when we were in our early years, we were separated a lot. So I was traveling, doing research in Latin America, and Laurie was still back in the U.S., and we wrote letters back and forth a lot. And on this one long trip, this year-long trip to Ecuador, we wrote letters every day. So this was before email. I mean, right, before phones. We could talk on the phone, but we'd have to schedule it in a letter, and we'd have to be in the right spot. And if the phones weren't working, it was just and I was traveling a lot in rural areas and so on. But in any case, years later, I'm just going to tell this story because I feel like I just got to put it out in the room, and the Becoming Eternal story. So years later, we took a sabbatical to Prague, and we took all these letters. We had a stack, and just didn't know what we were going to do, but we decided, hey, let's just read them. Let's do something. And so we sat in the middle of winter. It was January of 1996, and we started reading them to each other. And after about a week of reading these, Laurie says, I have an idea. And her idea was that we take passages from the letter. We take 365 passages because we've been dealing with death and separation, and the separation of just being apart in all these journeys when we were so deeply and passionately in love, but in those moments needing to walk away from each other. At the time when you don't want to walk away, but we did walk away, the bravery of that. So that's always been sitting with us, that one of us is going to die before the other one. And so how do we manage that, you know? So we took 365 passages, and together, that one of us wrote. So we pulled them out of these letters, big stack, and then that was the starting point of an essay. And then we together wrote an essay to the other one. So it's like we wrote in the first person plural to the one of us who survives the other's death. And so we have a book of 365 essays, and it sits in our dining room in a wooden box. And no one's ever read it. And we haven't published it, and we won't publish it. And it just sits there waiting for one of us to die. And it seems so weird. And the whole time we were writing it, we didn't know. We would be writing about, well, you know, do you think they'll want this? And then they'll want to hear, what will they? And then realizing, wait, it's us. It's one of us that we're writing to. And the power of that experience, and then going back 5 years later to Spain and taking it out again and reshaping it, and then Laurie coming back to the U.S. and reshaping it, finally getting it into this place, and now it just sits in this wooden box. In the wooden box, if you ever visit our house, says becoming eternal, and that's it. And that probably, that one piece, that this project probably more than anything epitomizes what this project is. It's not it's worldly conversation, or it's our teaching, or it's this or it's that. But in the middle of it, when we go home, everything we do, all of our travels, everything, in the end we go home and we sit and we have dinner every night. And there is becoming eternal, just waiting. So that's yeah. Yeah.
Which is a really interesting, deep, difficult, crazy, wrong thing about the design, that, you know, if you really are lucky enough, blessed enough to love people, you know, you'll lose them, or, you know, they'll lose you, or whatever. And that we have to just go through this life with that. Sometimes I wonder, like, or I don't wonder why life feels so crazy, because how are we all supposed to deal with that, you know? And so when we did this part of the relationship that lots of people do, where you're trying to define yourself, and are we this, and are we exclusive, and will we be married ever, you know, going through that part of the relationship, it was so clear to me that there was no forever. Like, no matter what, like, I couldn't just get eventually, you know, if I could just get married, then it would all be good, right? But it was just like, oh no, because there isn't forever, right? That's why I said to Sam this one day, I just want to become eternal.
I just want to find a way to become eternal.
I just want to find a way to become eternal. And yeah, we're still looking for that way.
That was in one of the letters. And then when we were sitting in Prague, we picked it out, and Laurie said, that's it. It's becoming eternal. So
that realization is actually really part of an everyday relationship, right? Because it's not just when somebody gets sick or hurt, or you get all of a sudden something happens to someone else and life gets put into perspective. It really is every day the realization that, oh, this is a day, and wow, it's such a boring day. Thank God it's boring, right? Because what a gift this would be if I were on the other side, or one of us was on the other side. And so it really forms the foundation of what we give to each other, how we support each other, teach each other. It's just like, wow, we're together. And that gives then lots of inspiration for working through conflicts and all the everyday struggles of any relationship and any life.
Yeah. So, it's funny when you see people, I think a lot of times I look at people who I emulate and I think are really interesting and I know they have a story, right? Or I just see people who I like. I mean, and I know they have a story. Everybody has a story, and I have a story. Laurie has a story. Like this necklace here. People say, "Oh, your necklace. It says B on it. It's B. That's cool." And I'm like, "No, it's not B." But I can't tell them what it is, right? But it's a coin that we were on the tram tracks in Prague, and it was the day I think that we named Becoming Eternal, and it was such a it's the day we wrote the last essay, the last words that one of us will ever hear from us together. The 365th essay. We went out to the tram tracks. We took 2 coins, and how when you're little kids, you put them on the tracks, and then they get squished, right? So we got them, and then we had we came back and we had our neighbor put B, cut them up, and it says BE, Becoming Eternal, right? And then we wear that. And like I wear that, and I'm sitting in class today, and I'm talking, and I'm touching it, and I'm just going, yeah. It's like I'm here in class, but I'm not here in class. I'm somewhere else, right? And because I'm in this other journey that I'm on, right, for 31 years. And I think life is like that. Like, you live a life, you live a really cool life, and you're on your own journey, and you want to be on your own journey. No one can ever touch that. No one can ever know what that is. And, one day we'll be alone, and one of us will be alone reading this thing and that's it. That's life. Man. It's big and it's small. Okay. You didn't ask for any of that, but does anybody have a question?
So this is a self-serving question. But, I knew you guys, I guess now, when you were 11 years maybe into your relationship, and I'm only 7 years into a marriage, and I'm wondering how you deal amidst how much you love one another and what you just expressed. How do you deal with conflict and disagreement while you love one another?
Yeah, I'll let you take that one.
You ready for the diagram? We fight it out just like everyone else. And the beauty of conflict is that you just think you're immortal because all the real stuff goes away because you have to win. And so we play that game, right? We just do the argument, do the damn you, the enemy, whatever it is that, you just become my arch enemy or vice versa.
Yeah.
Do all that stuff. And yeah, that. I don't know, by the way, all the diagrams about conflict and all that, I don't know how you don't do that. So it must serve us in some way to do that to one another.
We don't draw diagrams, though. We just
No. I just mean it must serve the planet for beings to just get big and ugly with each other.
Yeah, it does.
But
Yeah.
but I think maybe this is why it's not why I'm just involved in all this other fascination with conflict, but the beginning of our relationship was so filled with conflict because literally when I met Sam, so he was I was in his class, he was a grad student, and I was a senior, and I took his class. And when I just remember seeing him at the doorway, standing at the door or just waiting for something, and I was like, this is a person who I would not even want as a friend, was how I thought about him. So Anyway, and
I felt the same way about myself, by the way. This is yeah.
And, you know, he said, oh, this class is going to change your life and all this stuff. And it was so annoying. He was contradicting himself all the time. I just could not stand. One day he would be saying this, the next minute he'd be saying that. So finally I went to talk to him and had, you know, thinking I could argue. And
The only office hours you ever went to, right? In all your
ever
college?
in my entire career of college.
To tell me that I was wrong.
Right.
Yeah.
And in that, why am I'm telling this?
Because I...
Oh, no. Oh,
okay.
wait. So the point being, like, it goes on from there. Obviously, we're here, so a relationship evolved. But the key thing about Sam, that this sounds so, I'm sure, crazy to most people, but he was this person traveling, going to live abroad. And I was this person, even though New Jersey is this hugely multicultural place where people from all over the world are, I was in my little provincial world and had no plans or no desire to go anywhere. And I didn't understand. It's very connected to my family. Why would anyone leave everyone they love and go live among strangers? It made no sense to me. And once I realized I was hooked into now this relationship with this person who was alien to me, this was the fight of our relationship. Like, now we're connected. How are you still going away? How can you love someone and leave them? Like, this made no sense to me. But through a lot of conversation and working with a counselor, a facilitator, that is, something deeply changed in me. And I will never forget the moment that Sam went from my enemy to my partner. I mean, in a conversation with a therapist, we were married. And
she married us.
Yeah. It was the absolute marriage that happened in that room with her. And I have to like think of that moment of how I like saw him differently. It was the same person. He was saying the same things, but the words were different. I mean, the meanings were different because I could actually hear him instead of just hearing myself or like my own projection. And that moment, I think my whole life is built on that moment because I know that enemies can become allies. Because he was as much of my enemy as anybody could have been my enemy, because he was threatening my entire life and did threaten my entire life. And that didn't end, by the way. Like, that continues. And it's really deep, and it's painful, and it's also has all the potential of transformation in it. But whenever we're in conflict, like, I know that that's possible, and I just look for it. And it doesn't make it easier necessarily. It just gives me the willingness to go through the fire. So I hope.
Yeah, if you don't have conflict, I mean, really, you don't. Yeah, if you don't have growth, it's not easy, man. You know, Joseph Campbell. I don't quote many people, but I'll quote Campbell. Said that marriage is an ordeal. It is, oh my gosh, what an ordeal.
But it is like one of the, I mean, I guess in some, in Christian terms, it's a sacrament, right? And I know why, because it's a truly sacred act to
throw yourself into the fire.
Exactly.
So, especially, yeah. Anybody else, or?
Yeah.
So just a quick question. You mentioned like with your book and dropping out of college, and then Sam, you said how you kept getting like withdrawal grades. Throughout those struggles, was there a time where you just completely lost hope? Like you just didn't know what to do?
Yeah, lost hope, didn't know what to do. Yeah, that's a really cool question. I don't think so. No, that's not true. I did in those 2 years. There were a couple points when I was just those first two and a half years, probably really kind of in college, like really suffering. I knew I wasn't up to par intellectually. I really wasn't. I knew it, and I would spend some time around people who were and just feel I couldn't even follow their arguments, Yeah, just feeling like I just. I mean, I was digging music. I was digging lots of things, but I wasn't just just feeling like I wasn't maybe one get on the path. And then eventually accidentally did. You know. I don't know about you. Did you?
I don't think I lost hope until a couple of years ago when I don't still don't know how to name what happened to me, but I tentatively call it this metamorphosis that I went through. That was about a 7-year process, and in the middle of it, I mean, in the process of just being like feel like basically a metamorphosis when you're in the cocoon and you turn like the little caterpillar turns into slurry. That's like exactly what I was, slurry, and just a puddle of almost hopelessness. But I remember that in the middle of that, there were a couple times that I can picture. One, like sitting on my kitchen counter and feeling like I was almost out of hope. And that was the scariest moment of my life, actually, that I was almost to a place where I had nothing else to try and everything was failing. And I just remember making a decision in that moment not to go there. And that was like, I mean, I would always hear people say, "Oh, you'd have to choose how to think, and you have to whatever." And I'm just like, what does that mean? Like, that doesn't mean anything to me. But in that moment, I felt so desperate that I just said, "You're not going. No, you'll die if you go there." And so, like, I do feel like I now understand that encounter with hopelessness in a really real way, but it didn't happen to me when I was really young. And so I don't know what that means or if that matters, but wow, that's a life-changing place. Yeah.
So I'm just wondering, what are some things like for you guys together that are still on your bucket list? Like things you guys want to accomplish together still?
Well, I actually feel like my life has just begun, honestly. And definitely because of this metamorphosis, I actually feel like so when you say, what do you still want to accomplish? I never have lived my life with this feeling of what I wanted to accomplish. I now know that I was living behind a screen of some sort that was just keeping me seeking, but never having the freedom to have a bucket list. So I actually feel like I'm just starting. And that feels important because it feels weird to be 53 and to feel like my life is just starting. So that's kind of cool.
That's very cool, actually.
But I don't know if I want to say what's on my bucket list. I'm thinking about it.
The Northern Lights.
Yeah, that's definitely on my bucket list.
Yeah.
But I guess you said like one of the things was in between us. I actually feel like I want to. How did I say this to you the other day? You know, there's this sort of thing like the ideal, you fall in love and then there's happily ever after, right? Well, happily ever after is a really long time if you're lucky, right? And like what happens in happily ever after? Besides like you just go to this slow, gradual meaninglessness and irrelevance, right? This is not what what I want my life to be. So I think we were saying the other day, like, what comes at this point in a relationship when you don't have kids? Because I think what often happens is like that becomes your focus, of course. This is like the generativity of your life. So there's something that I can't name actually that feels trying to learn and to express what's possible in a relationship that's vibrant and growing, even at this point in the relationship. Sam?
I don't have it. Look, if we can manage to get to the end, and this is something I would say to you, Rick, if we can manage to get to the end and still feel that, those feelings that we had years ago and continue to have, if we can go do that, that's the bucket list, right? Like that's the only thing that's in the bucket. So, like, get to the end and actually want to read Becoming Eternal, as opposed to like, oh, okay. yeah, yeah, burn that thing. Been waiting to burn that thing for 20 years. Yeah, so yeah, yeah.
I think it's like the achievement is to enjoy. How can I say it? Like when we're in different places and Sam comes home at the end of a day, or I'm here, and we are like happy to be with each other. Like, oh, my friend, my lover, my
Although
partner.
we're actually not very demonstrative with each other. But go ahead, yeah. No. I'm just saying. No. Like what you just did. Like we don't. I mean, we're not. We say that with each other. Like, yeah, we should be more demonstrative or whatever. No, go ahead. Yeah. At the end of the day.
No. No, what I mean is to feel like it's like okay, last weekend we walked up to the stadium during the game and just walked around the stadium and just watched people and life and whatever, and it felt like stuff that we did 25 years ago, and it was just like fun to do. So to me that's like the bucket, right? To just
exactly
to just be like excited to be together watching a butterfly or something. I don't know. It's like,
but man,
that's an achievement.
It is so difficult. It is so difficult. Meaning that like it doesn't just happen. Like, oh my God, we have worked so hard. I mean, it's not always fun, right? It's work. It is so much work. Oh my gosh, but it's cool. But it's not the kind of thing. It's like you want to sit down and just look at your phone or watch television or something. It's like, no, you can't. You got to get back to work on the ordeal.
Come on.
No, but really, right?
You get it, right?
Yeah, there. That's the real answer to the question. Yeah. All right. Do you have another one?
One more.
How does the work? Say that again. How does our work give us the opportunity to use our gifts, respond to needs in the world, and live out what we believe? Well,
it does. I can tell you that. I can say that, like, going to work every day gives me the opportunity to do all those things that you just listed, and I think it's because, I don't know, like, this place called The World in Conversation is just this, to me, it's a living organism, and for me, just watching life grow and being a part of something growing is what it's all about. I feel like for all of us, it's all about that. However it is that we engage life, I feel like at the height, it's when something's growing, something's alive. And so whether it's figuring out how to get well, in your case, the live stream working, but like a video connection working so we can connect to these folks in Afghanistan, or whether it's Carm and I having an argument about a thing so that we can make a dialogue better than it was, like that feels like purpose, and it feels like it's drawing on all the things that I've learned to this point about what matters and who matters and all of that stuff that we just talked about tonight.
And then if you argue with Carm, that means you don't come home and argue with me, right? So you get to take it. For me, I think there is the part of me that enjoys the stage. So as I'm I am shy. I'm like one of the, those like musical theater people, and they're really kind of quiet. And then you put a mic in their hand, and they're belting out some big song on the stage and doing, the whole thing. And I think, like, where did that come from? So I'm kind of like that. And so so my work now with the 119 class certainly now gives me the opportunity to satisfy a part of me that I actually never really knew existed, but that's the acting part. Because my whole life, right? Like in sports, in baseball, I played baseball for 7 years. I was the catcher, so I was always behind a mask. And as a musician, I'm a drummer, and I always had lots of cymbals, so I would hide behind my drums. And in football, I was the wide receiver and the safety, so I was like always out away from everybody else, right? And in basketball, similar kind of thing, like a point guard kind of thing. The last one kind of coming up, always sort of back, always never part of the group. And so,
So you're saying you learned about this part
I learned
of yourself.
about that, but it's not. But now I'm able to bust through it and do something different. Yeah. Anybody else have a question? I don't know when we have to end.
I think Diana said this was the final question.
Yeah. Does anyone have a question? You have a question? Sartini has a question.
Oh, wait. This is that guy?
This is him.
This is that guy.
This is our son, by the way.
Oh, really?
Yeah, we're adopting him. Well, the class thinks we need to adopt him. But no, you have to speak into the mic, though, so that the stream, anybody who might be watching the stream.
Hey, I just want you to know, if I'm your son, that makes Dhruv also your son, because technically we're married on Facebook, so this is my wife.
Oh,
Congratulations.
Right.
We have such a great
Son-in-law.
family. Yeah. Yeah, I was wondering, you and I have pretty similar energies most of the time, it feels. So I was wondering how you got, in academia, because I feel like you got a really big personality, and I don't really see how that fits there sometimes. Yeah,
Oh, you mean with the small-mindedness of the academy?
Something like that.
Wait, did I say that? Not the small-mindedness, but a lot of academics. We just get really involved in this tiny world here. I gave up the academy. I wanted to be a professor, like a research professor, kind of all that kind of stuff. And I was on track to do all that, and I gave it up. It happened. I don't know if I gave it up, but maybe I did. I don't know. With my book. Yeah. So I was on track. I was headed. So my first 2 years here, I was working on a book, and it was my PhD dissertation, but it was also, I wrote it as a book, and so I finished it. I sent it off to University of Chicago Press. It was the #1 publishing house in sociology, and I'm like, listen, it was always going to be a book. From day one when I started it, right? It was just field research on priests and nuns in Ecuador. And I spent, 4 years working on it. And so I spent more like 8 years working on it. But nonetheless, right? So I sent it off to University of Chicago for a series, and they sent it back, and they said, listen, this is great. This would be perfect for this series. Why don't you do this, this, and this, and send it back to us, and we'll publish it, right? And so I'm like, great. Okay, so I spent another year, lots of sweat. Laurie's a lot of sweat, because Laurie was my editor. And this was going to be it. I put all my energy behind this book, and then this would launch me into the academy, right? They wrote back 6 weeks later and said, sorry, we're not interested. And so I called Laurie on the phone. I said, I'm done. And this was one of those moments with tears in my eyes, right? Because I knew I was done, and it was a good thing. They were good tears. They were really nice. I said, I'm done. I'm not doing this. I'm not living for somebody else. I'm not going to live my life putting a vita together, waiting for someone else to tell me if something's acceptable or not acceptable or whatever the case is. And so I got off the academic track. And then we weren't going to have kids, and so we said we gave ourselves tenure at Penn State, because tenure is a job that you have a job until you don't want it anymore, because tenure basically means the university or the school system or whatever it is can't fire you, right? So unless you do something really egregious, but and so we we knew that the moment that Penn State didn't want us to work at Penn State anymore, then we didn't want to work here. Why would we want to be here? We'll just move somewhere else. So we didn't choose really to move. It was an accident that we were here anyways. And so we gave ourselves tenure, and then we just started working here with tenure. And that was it. No one knows we have tenure, by the way. Well, you do now, but yeah. So it was just one of those things. And so then we got out of the academy, and we started to do what we wanted to do, because we didn't have to worry about getting fired, because there's nothing, we can't get fired. You know what I mean? If you fire us, we're going to quit before you get the words out of your mouth, right? So like, there's none of that. It doesn't matter. So then we've lived our lives here doing exactly what it is that we felt we wanted to do and we'd be happy doing. And so it's been a really, really good ride in that sense. So that's the academy. That's what allowed us to sort of expand and do and try different things, and fail. Mostly fail. Most things certainly we've ever done and I've ever done for sure have been failures. Because you fail way more than you succeed. So my first 35 years of teaching have been failures. I've been teaching 35 years. I'm still trying to figure it out. So, yeah. Isn't that awesome that we gave ourselves tenure? It's so much fun, And now we're retired. We just retired, actually, a couple months ago. Laurie gave me an honorary degree that no one knows what it is.
It actually, the retirement thing it's true. I mean, the tenure thing and the retirement thing are true. We just told each other, like, we said, if we retired, we're not thinking about retiring, but if we did, what would we be doing? We were like, the same thing, probably. So we were like, well, let's just call ourselves retired.
Let's just retire.
Realize that everything we're doing is because that's what we want to
so
do.
Now
Which
when we have
everything.
So now when we have something we maybe want to do, we don't want to. We're like, wait a minute, we're retired.
Yeah, what are we stressing about?
What are we stressing about? We have nothing to stress about. We're retired. The whole world's open. Yep. That's why I'm the HPS. All right, I won't go there. Yeah, never mind. You gotta be an HPS to know one. Laurie has to anoint you with that title. So, dude,
that's good.
You're on your way. Trust me. Any other questions? Any quick ones? We do have a question.
Do you guys have any general life advice?
General life advice. Yeah. Okay, I got one. Recognize that living a good life is really difficult. It doesn't come easy, right? It shouldn't be easy. It doesn't come easy. It's wrestling a lot. And the other one is don't settle. One of the things about Laurie that's been really cool, it's been really very cool, is that Laurie never settles. So I can't just say, hey, I'm done talking now, or what do you want to do tonight? Well, let's talk. We need to talk. Let's go to a movie. We're not going to a movie, dude. We're talking, that kind of thing. And it's don't settle. Really, it's just, it doesn't come easy. There are lots of amazing, easy moments in it all, right? It's wonderful. It's amazing. I laugh. It's a lot of work. The sort of how that vision, happily ever after, that kind of thing. It's 10 minutes. And then you're like, okay, now you're back to work, right? And so, yeah, that's the life advice, I would say. And you don't settle with people. Listen, man, people don't change. So it's if rarely people change, I would say. So if you when you have friends or your family or this or that, and they're a certain way at some point, they're going to be that way in 10 years or 20 years, and it's going to be more problematic. And I always say that. I think we've both been saying that. I'll sit a little closer to you, my dear. To younger people forever. I mean, maybe it's just us. I don't know, but I don't think so. We've kind of been teaching for a long time, three and a half decades for me, and people don't change a lot. And so you wait till you get to that. Yeah. That's my life advice.
I actually, this sounds like, I think because I can't put into words what I'm seeing, this phrase comes to mind, living the dream, like that's just a funny thing to say, yep, this is us, living the dream. But it's actually really, there's something that has a lot of advice in that statement, which is at every one of you right now, like this is living the dream right now, where you are, living the dream. And so if when you say that to yourself, you're like, yeah, I really am. Or no, I'm really not. Whatever it is, like this is it. This is all it's ever going to be. So even if you're living that thing that you're picturing is your bliss somehow, it's still going to be just like this. It's the craziest thing is how those things that seemed like, wow, will I ever be in love, And it's like, wow, the thing that I really wanted, I'm living the dream, and it's also got everything in it. It's like this is maybe a weird parallel, but I remember when my dog died, who I was, my beloved dog, and I remembered one day I was walking home after he had died, and I was thinking, everything has everything in it. In other words, there was so much love and so much fun and so much learning and so much sadness and grief, and it was all in it, right? And then I started looking at everything has all of it. So living the dream, really, it sounds so simple, but it's not out there. And I know, like at this age, when we're this age, it's like you're an adult, so you can make all these decisions. The world is at your fingertips. And yet it's all this stuff is telling you, do this, be that, want this, get that, blah, blah, blah. And that's a really hard thing to be because it's a place to be because it's about living the dream right now. You're in college, right?
So final thing, I'll just say this really fast because I said I was going to announce this here, but we'll say more about this. But Laurie and I are, can I say the Columbia piece? Oh, all right, cool.
Maybe Diana or Rachel has a final thing before you say that, or Alicia does.
All right, then I'll say this and then do the wrap up. Laurie and I are going to offer a 1 week. Don't really call it a course. It's an experience, a life experience. I don't know, course, life experience, whatever, in Columbia in May, from around the 11th to the 19th or something. And we're just going to take a small group of people down, or it's not a Penn State thing. It's outside of Penn State. The purpose is to raise funds for Afghanistan, and so it's just the cost of what it costs to get down there, and the cost of a hotel, and then the cost of the program, which it's not going to be very much to raise funds for the Afghan team. And we want to spend a week with a small group of people and just really go into a lot of these issues. And so anyway, we'll put that together more, but we said that we were going to kind of say that. But
well, you also have, if anybody's interested, you had a sheet to...
I do have a sheet. Yeah, I have a sheet. You could put your name down, and we can just give you more information as we develop it. But so that feels really cool. It feels really like a nice opportunity for us to be around a small group of people and talk about some of the things that we typically don't get to talk about. These kinds of things. So, and we are finished.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Really...
Feels very. Wait.
We want to say thank you. My name's Alicia Anderson. I got here a little late. It was coming from something else. But we want to thank you so much for letting us invite you into this conversation. And earlier you said it was kind of an honor to have a chance to talk about these things. But I don't know about the rest of you, but it feels like an honor to be invited into watching the two of you negotiate and share with us things about yourself, not just in what you're saying, but in watching you do the dance of relationship together. So thank you very much. Diana mentioned discernPSU is the program and project that's invited them here, and it's a chance for folks to think about who they are and what they're doing with their lives and their relationships and all the things that matter. In some ways, what you guys have talked about exemplifies what we're inviting students and others who work on campus to think about. So we invite you to visit the discernPSU website and just watch for little quotes and things that you'll see across campus, and we'll have other folks on campus share what they do as well. So just keep your eyes open, and you're more than welcome to like us on Facebook or join our Twitter feed. And there's cookies and some giveaways over by the door, so hit there after we're all done. But thank you so much.
Yeah, thanks.